And now, ladies and gentlemen, we'll be taking this further. We have next address on scripting a brand new story for PR, pros in 2023 from podcast to automation and beyond. Joining us, we have Ms. Kamna Hazrati, CMO Top Rankers. Let's welcome her with a big round of applause. Hello.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Kamna Hazrati. Thank you for being here. It's a lovely audience. To quickly introduce myself, as I said, my name is Kamna Hazrati. I started young in my career as a sales executive in a media house and moved to become a marketing manager in a digital agency, where back, I think 8 years ago, I co-founded my first 3 D2C brands, Gifts Made, the Yaya Cafe, and Hopkara. And back in 2021 is when I started my second company called KH Advisory. No points for imagination. The name is very simple. Here we work with startups and to build, grow, and scale faster, being a consultant for in terms of strategy and acting there as their fractional CMO. Today, I represent Top Rankers. Today, I represent here Top Rankers, which is an edtech platform with careers beyond medicine and engineering. And I am here to present on a topic for PR pros in 2023. And while I mentioned that my journey has been from a media house, is because I can relate to what it really means to be at that end, and I can relate to how that journey is usually. Okay. So moving on. So moving on. Pardon me for, I never knew while running the businesses that I have stage fright, but I discovered this attribute about myself today. So thank you for being a very kind audience. I think let's talk about, before we move into the PR trends in 2023, let's quickly try to talk about, what is the landscape of digital, and that it's just not .coms, right? Oh, thank you. Yeah. So back in the day, if you look at the newspapers, if someone remembers, what was the size of a newspaper, say, 10 years ago? Any guesses for that? So 10 years ago, newspapers used to be about 40 pages thick. And yesterday's HT was about 22 pages thick. That's almost a 50% fall in how traditional media is really working now, right? So young in our career, as a PR intern or a young professional, we used to look for the bylines, right? We used to look at the bylines. We used to analyze newspapers on who's advertising or in which newspaper, and who was out for shopping. Now, fast forward, newspapers have become thinner. The audience has moved to a digital, and the content on a .com versus a newspaper is very, very different. It's okay. I'll just stay here. Thank you. The audience which is reading these media is also very different, right? They come from different age groups. They come from different demographies. They come from different regions. And how we consume news is also very different. Simultaneously, how we appeal to this audience is also very different. A Gen Z is reading on a flipboard, maybe a Chingari, maybe a Public, or maybe a Insta Reel or a YouTube short, right? Or people like us are reading an Ad Gully or a Your Story or a Ink 42. And at the same time, it's just not what we are reading, but also what we are listening to, right? We are also listening to podcasts while we drive, we wash, we fold. The way we are consuming information and news has really changed over the years. The boomers, and by the way, the bloomers are reading newspapers, both national and regional, and the Facebook feeds, the very popular Facebook feeds, which I'm sure a lot of parents, a lot of people here will be able to relate to with how their parents are consuming information, right? These are tectonic changes. So let's talk about the trends which are now coming next. The number one thing which I talk about today is podcast. Now with podcasts, I was looking at some data this morning, and the listener base in India has grown to about 4 million, from 4 million in 2016 to an estimated 90 million in 2022. It's high quality content, there is variety, there is widespread availability, and a very high consumption. Also, a very big driver for podcast is the vernacular content which you get. So you find content in Marathi, Tamil, Malayalam, Bengali, and these are the leaders. And I didn't see Hindi as a leader, by the way. I saw these 4 vernacular languages, the regional languages, as a leader. And then there is Telugu, Gujarati, and other languages which are catching up. The podcast genres are new policy, entertainment, and comedy. And 56% people are trusting what they see or what they hear about on a podcast. Moving on to the trend number 2, which is creator economy. From a fellow panelist, was actually talking about why no one has touched about creator economy since morning. But that's actually what has become a 3,000 crore business by 2024. And you see, these creators they can be macro influencers, these are micro influencers, nano influencers. Anyone who is beyond maybe 1,000 to 2,000 followers reach has become a part of creator economy. Trend number 3 is the proliferation of chatbots. Now, that's another thing which I didn't hear since morning, but I thought I'll address the elephant in the room, the C word, the dreaded C word, chatbots, right? How chatbots or a chat GPT or a Bard may take over, how we consume content, or may take over how we write content, right? The jobs of content marketers, right? And while I was reading more about that, I was wondering, how these tools will actually enable us to become better in our jobs. Instead of taking them as a threat, they can actually be an enabler for us to do better. While a Grammarly can help you to have autocorrection, to write better speech, or have better sentence correction, it still cannot match the human being on the other end. And while I was looking at, chatbots, I thought, when we think about machine learning and artificial intelligence, I thought for PR professionals, it's very important to realize the importance of double AI, which is adaptability, awareness, and innovation. It's important for PR professionals to be adaptable to the changing norms, right? The new technologies coming in, to being flexible about it. Secondly, about awareness. It's important for us to be aware about what are the events happening globally and how do they affect our businesses locally. And also, how it's very important for PR pros to be very innovative, to be creative thinkers, and to be a great storyteller who can actually dig deeper, who are not, because the job of a PR professional has changed from publishing a press release to actually communicating a great story. So how will we really communicate in the future? Okay, I have to be here. Effective messaging for shorter attention span is so much, it's so important for us to address that now the attention span has now come down to about 8 seconds, just 8 seconds, while you can grab, I think, if I'm able to manage 8 seconds of your attention, I should be a happier person today. But yes, that's the number which I see. That's the attention span we have. And storytelling for PR professionals is going to be so very important in the coming future. How do you write meaningful stories? How do you write with empathy? How do you write stories which make an impact? So as a business leader, we are always having something to sell. I have something to sell. I want to put it out in the market, right? But I have to have a great story. I have to communicate it in a way that the other person is willing to buy, is willing to spend their dime on my product, right? And that is what That is how the future of communication should be. Also, I think a very important point which I see, and while I work with businesses as their CMO, is also what I see, how journalists behave to the kind of media we offer them, right? So it has become different from publishing a press release. Journalists are not picking up our press releases, right? They don't. So if I'm coming from a good renowned brand also, if I don't have a story to say, something which will convince them to put it in a very limited real estate, say a newspaper. A newspaper, real estate, it used to be maybe an ambience mall and has now become a TDI mall, just because the landscape has really changed. And for someone to give you that space, it's very important to have the right story to tell. So it's very important for us to understand the H and W's of communication. Who are we trying to target? How are we trying to target? And where do we really target them, right? So A, it's highly personalized. Who is your target audience? So for you as a PR person, it's just not your client, right? But who is actually selling, who's actually servicing to that client, right? The consumer of that particular client. So just in the panel before, when you have a use case of JK tires or you have a use case of Volvoline, right? The end consumer is actually not the person who's buying that car, but also the person who's changing your tires. So as a PR person, it's very important to understand who that eventual customer of your product is. Secondly, we need to find out how is this audience consuming our content. Is it Instagram Reels? Is it voice search? Is it podcast, YouTube videos, shorts, Reels, or short videos like, Public? I see them as a sponsor here, so maybe a Chingari or a Public, right? And then you need to go where they are. So be it national, regional, local, hyper-local. I was listening to Abhijit in the morning, and it's fascinating to know how a company like Public has been able to achieve 60 million active users monthly on their platform by using hyper-local content. Imagine if you're able to target that market as a PR professional with your media strategy, that's any marketer's dream, right? And the last thing which I really wanted to touch upon here, and which I see as a trend, which is there to, it's not really a trend, it is the Bible of being a marketer, is the art of storytelling. How do you put out what you do? So as a business owner, I'm always creating value, but as a communication team, I need to capture that value and communicate it very effectively to my audience. How am I doing that really defines our job. Okay, so on an ending note, before I came in, I quickly went to ChatGPT and have put in the topic of this presentation in ChatGPT, and this is what I got. Now, though I see a use case of Sarah talking about how she can navigate through the speech, but I really hope that my 1.5 decades of experience has been little more impactful than a ChatGPT offering 3 paragraphs, and that is something as communication team is that's a role which is indispensable to my mind. And I think I would want to, going back to the art of storytelling, I represent top rankers here. We are in the business of building careers beyond medicine and engineering. And in this business, we are actually talking to students. So when I started my careers 15 years ago, I started as, by education, I'm a computer science graduate, but found my way of building businesses and building brands, right? But if I was in 10th standard, when I was in 10th standard, no one asked me, what do I want to become, right? It was imperative because I was coming from a family of bankers and engineers. I should have been an engineer. I fought my way through it, but at that time, I was aware of what my skill set is. I always wanted to do business. I always wanted to be a manager. I was very clear about it. But the point was no one asked. And the other thing was, there was no other visibility on other career options. But now, at Top Rankers, this is exactly what we are trying to do. And this is exactly what we are trying to do with this art of storytelling, of communicating the value which we are creating. We are in the business of transforming careers, and that is happening not only at the consumer end, but also at the parents' end. We are letting people know, letting parents know that their children can actually explore careers of becoming a business manager, of becoming a journalist, or becoming a PR person, or an architect, or a designer, and also letting the kids know that their horizon is really big. They can be what they want to be, because as a country, we have changed our perspective of being just an engineer or a doctor, but new age super careers, as we say it, are also available with great salary packages, so as to say, and also a possibility that you can actually get into an IM right after 12th, only if you know it now that this is happening. And I'll just try to close it with, it's just not what you say, but how you say it. And that's exactly what's going to matter for us as a PR trend, and not just the trend, but as a Bible and as a foundation for years to come. So yes, thank you so much for being a lovely audience. Have a great evening. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for this presentation. That was quite creative and sharing the changes in technology in these